If you're young and deciding what to do with your future, you need to go and travel. Study abroad. It doesn't need to be semester at sea. I think it's the greatest program on planet Earth, but you need to get outside of America and get outside of your country. There's a lot more to see out there that will change the course of your life. And if you don't do it, I promise you, you will regret it.
Welcome to this week's As Unexpected podcast, when we talk to C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, and philanthropists about how they lead into the future when the future generally goes as unexpected. I'm Scott Marshall, your host, and my own professional experience has made me a believer that it's not how you show up when all goes as planned, but it is how you show up when things go as unplanned. Given all of their experiences, each of our guests has become very attuned to the fact that the future is not to be predicted. My hope is that this podcast can help all of you become better leaders by building the core leadership capabilities for leading in an uncertain world. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the As Unexpected podcast. If anybody's heard of these names, Bon Jovi, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, then you're in for a big treat today. Today I have Mike Savas. Mike, welcome to the As Unexpected podcast.
Pleasure to be here, Scott. This is fantastic.
Yeah. Mike has had such a fascinating career, a unique position in this music industry. Mike, would you please give our guests a bit of a bio? Where did it start? What are you doing now?
It's not a lie to say it all started with semester at sea, brother. I'm a dual-time alumni, an '03 student, an '07 staff member. I went on to do a few reunion voyages. And ever since I set foot on that boat, to the day I stepped foot off that boat, I was a changed human. And I'm really not just saying that. It framed me as a global citizen. And unfortunately, it wired me in a way that would not accept normal life as routine. And I always questioned why. I always wanted more. And I always pushed back against the grain. So if you're considering going on semester at sea, get ready for some uncomfortability because it's going to make you a different human in the most beautiful way possible. Needless to say, Scott, that all took place, in my younger days. And I always wanted to be in music. So I searched long and hard for the first opportunity, and I took everything that came up. That led me down the path I'm on now, which involves touring around the world with different artists, some of which you've named, working alongside some of the best management teams, promoter groups. And I've just been very blessed to build an agency who gets to fulfill fans' dreams and work with some of these teams. And I get to do that day in and day out, along with my adventures and personal challenges. And I can't credit Semester C enough for all that.
Well, thank you for that. The name of the company is Power.
So the name of the company is Superfan.
Superfan.
Yeah. So we call ourselves Super as well. So essentially, we're superpower, very similar, like superpower. But no, we're called Superfan. And look, we're very simply a VIP agency specializing in global concert tours and festivals. So for the average person, they don't even know we exist. We are the VIP team that executes the Superfan experiences on behalf of artists. So if you go on Ticketmaster and you type in many of your favorite artists, you'll see that they're offering what we call a VIP program. We come up with that language, we price it, we help market it and get it listed on the primary ticketing platforms. And then we have events teams around the world that execute those campaigns. So it often includes merchandise, pre-show hospitality, artist access, backstage access, and always a great concert ticket. So it very much depends on the willingness of the artist or the management team to permit access to the artist. That could live in the form of acoustic sets, Q&As, meet and greets, photo ops, those sorts of things. And then the hospitality goes pre-show, post-show, cocktail reception, dinner reception. We really create the programming around our tours based off the appetite of the fans, meaning how much access they want and what they're willing to spend, alongside the interest of the artist and or their management teams.
Perfect description. Sorry for the mistake on the name. It locked in my head the wrong way. Or Superfan, indeed. That is brilliant. And you are like offering a one of a kind. I mean, there's not many people who have been able to replicate this service. Is that right?
This section of the music industry really all started in 2008, and I was one of the small few at that time who was trying to figure it out. So I had left my career at a record label, Atlantic Records, I actually went back to school and I got certified as a tour guide, as a tour director. And the Bon Jovi team was looking for someone to come on board who A, had good traveling experience, B, understood the music industry, different facets of it, and C, was very good at hosting people. All three of which skills I happen to have at the time, but I truly had quit the music industry and said goodbye to my dream. And it found me, it brought me back in, which you'll often find with music. It sucks you back in even when you don't want it to. So the Bon Jovi team was looking for someone to come on board and run what they called their side stage experience, which was 3 songs on the side of the stage. John would high five on you, sweat on you if you were lucky. You'd get an autograph program and a bag sitting in the front row. And that idea came to the team because it used to be a radio campaign. And we realized that radio promotional winners were giving this great access. Why not try to sell it and see if we could combat some of the secondary market, the ticket scalping market? It proved to be effective. And now I'd press you to find an artist not offering a VIP program. Whereas in 2008 to 2012, it was kind of unheard of. And many artists looked down upon it. Like, we don't want to offer VIP we don't want to charge our fans more. They've all realized, A, they need the money now. 2, can actually be a value add if done properly. And 3, especially in America, you have to combat the secondary market, because if you don't price your tickets according to supply and demand, they're going to, and you're not going to see any of that money. So our business is doing extremely well. We're thriving right now. We've grown the business from a team of 2 up to a team of 25 full-time plus touring staff. We have about 35 clients around the world, primarily arena and stadium level acts. So we're very proud of what we built. And we're driven by enthusiasm, highly passionate, and just love to come up with outside of the box ideas.
Very cool. This is an industry that I only know by being a fan, by listening to music. And my wife and I have been watching the Billy Joel documentary I think it's on HBO Max. And there's some insight into the personal life of this artist, but also just seeing the change in the type of venues, the type of environments they're playing in, the rigorous schedules that these artists go on. These tours are intense. And you're right there along with it. So when you're working, man, you are going. Is that right?
Well, thankfully, I no longer have to go on tour, Scott. But there was half a decade there when I was day in, day out, different country every day. I'd often wake up and not know what city I was in. The sleep was limited. The memories are vague. And it was rock and roll. Now I have teams that go out and do the touring on our behalf. So I have the luxury and opportunity just to frequent the beginning of tours, the end of tours, checking on the managers, checking on the team members executing the program. So, dare I say I'm comfortable now, because that would be a clear lie. However, my gig has changed, and now I leave others to go into the weeds and go to war for us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. A great evolution of your business. So, Mike, the whole premise of this podcast is for our guests to open up, but with stories about their own professional, personal life, that when things didn't go as expected, how did they show up for themselves? How did they show up for others? Given the nature of your work, I'm guessing that there's been plenty of such cases, and we all can learn so much from when things don't go as planned. Would you mind starting off with a story going back over the last few decades where something just didn't go as expected, as you really thought it would, and how you showed up for yourself, and importantly, for those around you?
Scott, I hope you can forgive me for this story, because I truly can't help but immediately connect with a memory from semester at sea, which is directly attached to the human I've become. And this is a story that I look back on with mixed emotions, because if not for this evening that happened in Cuba, I would not be where I am today. Yet it was awfully traumatic for a lot of people. So what occurred when I was the young age of 20, we were still going to Cuba on semester at sea, and it was our first port, my second day on board. So me and about a dozen of the other students went for drinks. We could drink legally in Cuba. We went for some mojitos, and we were going salsa dancing that night. In Cuba, they have little small vehicles called coco taxis. Coco taxis are open air, effectively rickshaws that have no doors. So we had 4 of these coco taxis following each other, feeling good. Sun was setting, on the way to the salsa club, everyone in good spirits. and a driver had passed me on my left, and I felt the breeze of the car beside me, and then I heard a noise. I heard a crash behind me. This driver had hit another passenger vehicle, which was one of the Coco taxis of our group. That taxi had rolled and had collided with two more. So this resulted in us being taken to the hospital in Cuba, actually, Scott. Keep in mind, at this time, it was 2003, so it was still under communist rule. Fidel was still in power. Um, this was an evening that I'll never forget, but what occurred was I was the only student that could speak any Spanish. And I was the only student that had a sound mind in this chaotic situation. I was able to get in communication with the dean, get in communication with the shipboard doctor. They came down. We were able to tend to the needs of everyone that had been involved in the car wreck. Most everyone was, generally fine. One of the students had a dislocated hip bone. He was no longer able to continue with the journey on board the ship. But that moment, only 2 days on board, where I had to become this triage leader, this 20-year-old kid who all of a sudden had to take care of nine other students who really needed help. And to see how I responded in that situation without having to make a decision, it just became automatic. Being able to hold a position of power, think level-headed, think with very stable mindset, and make some hard decisions about what steps to take in a foreign country, was really eye-opening to me and made me realize that I was capable of handling a lot more pressure than most, and a lot more chaotic scenes than most. And I tell that story because while it was as traumatic, it also really solidified who I was going to become in the next 2 decades. So because of that moment in time, I ended up coming back on semester at sea. I ended up having a really fantastic shipboard experience, made a lot of my best friends to this day. And it gave me the perspective that, A, life is short. B, life is different around the world. You don't need to live the standard US mindset. You can live alternatively. You can think alternatively. You can push back. You can question. So from that moment onwards, I was able to step into music, into concert touring, into very intense physical challenges, which we'll talk about on this podcast, and really use it as a grounding moment to look back on. And as you do hard things, it kind of makes you stronger. So you can always go back into that bag and pull another one out and be like, oh, remember when I did this? Remember when that occurred? I was fine then. I'm going to be fine now. So I try to always stay calm and cool, stay level headed, make the best decision with what's within a 5-foot radius of me. There's a common saying, like, whatever's within 5 feet, use that to make the best decision possible. Even if it's a bad decision, it might be the best decision amongst a group of bad decisions. So I often think back to that moment. And then, since that time, honestly, going on tour with all these different artists, there's been times where, when Janet Jackson had to fly back from Michael Jackson's court case, I was the person who had to instruct all the super fans that she had decided not to perform that night. And I got bottles thrown at me. I got tears. I had people trying to jump at me. This was at the Sydney Opera House, after people had a few drinks. So, you just kind of, again, I knew that wasn't going to be a proud moment. I knew that was going to be a difficult moment, stepping into the limelight and being the spokesperson on behalf of Janet Jackson. So things like this come up often in touring, and you never know who you're going to be speaking on behalf of or how you're going to show up. So, you keep your head down, you act confident, you speak slowly, and you show up with empathy and understanding and do your best.
This episode of As Unexpected is sponsored in part by Semester at Sea, a study abroad program for college students and adults on career breaks, sabbaticals, or retired, interested in learning and exploring the world together. Learn more about the Lifelong Learner program at www.semesteratSea.org. But frequently uncomfortable is the zone of growth that our model isn't. We want people to be safe. So I'm sorry about the accident. I'm glad everybody got out okay, and that you were there to play the role that you did. and you know, you're presenting in front of the angry Aussies to get them to realize that this is done. We got to move on. And meanwhile, you're ducking bottles. Hopefully you weren't unsafe, but clearly you were uncomfortable. How can you not be in such an environment? And so that to me is the zone of growth, is where we're uncomfortable. But when we're unsafe, we're just thinking about our safety. Now, you shared with me that you just put yourself through a very significant physical challenge, which ultimately is physical, emotional, and mental challenge, right? It can't just be physical. Can you share with your audience what you undertook in the continent of Africa recently?
Absolutely. So, I enjoy hard things. I enjoy challenges. I enjoy seeing what I'm capable of. I mean, I said yes to semester at sea when I was 19, stepped into the safe but uncomfortable. So I continue to live by that today. I'm constantly signing up for races and challenges. The one that you're referring to is it's called the most difficult ultra marathon in the world, the granddaddy of all ultra marathons, Marathon des Sables, which means marathon of the sand. And this is a 9-day adventure marathon through the Sahara Desert in Morocco. It's completely self-supported, meaning they give you no aid other than 5 liters of water per day and a small canvas wrap to sleep under, among 7 other humans sardined all together side by side. So the distance is 150 miles. I believe it's 240 kilometers. 9 days. You're doing about a marathon per day. On one day, you do 2 marathons back to back through the sand, over sand dunes. Again, carrying everything on your back, from mat to food, to Band-Aids, to Vaseline, whatever you bring with you, that's all you have to survive with. So your caloric intake is very low. I was doing 2,200 calories per day. For perspective, when you're exerting that sort of energy, you're probably burning somewhere between 10,000 to 15,000 calories per day. So quick math, I was 100,000 calories deficit by the end of the week. You lose a few pounds. And what I experienced there, again, surprising to me, because I don't think we realize, no, I'm sure we don't realize what we're capable of as humans. And only when put in extreme conditions does our true self show up. I attended this race solo. I had no friends going with me, which in and of itself was kind of crazy. And the first 2 or 3 days was very difficult. Once I got past the double marathon day, it was getting very hard for most people, right? They were struggling with the food, they were struggling with nausea, and I was able to completely go the other way. And I thrived in the chaos. I thrived in the pain. I became the cheerleader for others. And I think that's where I find some of my energy, is in support of others, in service of others. So as I ran this race, seeing others go down, I went the other way and went up. I was, making jokes, kissing babies, slapping asses. Like, I was the cheerleader of everyone running across the desert, to the point where at the end of the day, there was a celebration end stage, and they would throw me the mic, and I became the unofficial MC of the race. And man, I was doing backflips. I was cheering people for hours after each race day. So it was, first off, I had a blast. Secondly, I was truly shocked that that's what occurred for me, and what I was able to pull out from that difficulty. So again, I found this really deep confidence in my abilities as I say as a spirit, seeing how I present myself when times are difficult. And I think that's hard for people to do. And I take a lot of that from Semester at Sea, because it kind of built me out to be this human that sees differently, thinks differently, and then shows up differently.
Mike, if I could put 2 things together that you said there. One is, most people are not aware of what they're capable of achieving, and particularly when we're in service to others.
Mm.
I mean, when those 2 important ideas, concepts, are put together,
Yeah.
wow, just think of the message you're sending to those people, to anyone who's listening. Uh, we're simply not aware of what we can achieve, particularly when we are truly in service to others beyond us. The way you showed up in the Sahara, the way you show up now for your teams, the way you show up for the bands, your friends, your everybody, then we can just accomplish what others think unaccomplishable. So that there's just some power in what you're saying.
You're so right. You're so right, and I think you said it perfectly. That very eloquent. You've inspired me by acting as a mirror. And the truth is, anyone who's studied abroad, anyone who's traveled, anyone who's done semester at sea or a similar program, you see what the world is like, and you want to help. You can't help that natural calling to want to give back. Whether or not you do, you have this inner gut feeling like I can do more, I should do more, and then you have guilt and you suffer through all these different emotions around it. Some people make it their life's work, and some never think about it again. I try to show up every day in service to whatever degree that is, whether it be the person in front of me or my team or my family. Some days better than others. And, it does resonate with me though, Scott, because whenever there's been a trying situation, I've done some disaster response efforts through the years, or again, it's often when things go sideways. I call it a plan B fun, type 2 fun, right? Type A fun is you think you're going to go for a walk, and type 2 is there's all of a sudden there's a typhoon and you're getting blown away and your luggage falls in the ocean, and those are the things you remember. So, having learned that type 2 fun is actually the most memorable and the most dramatic and the most traumatic type of fun, now I seek it out. Whereas before, I think it used to just happen as a matter of fact in that natural course of life. And when you can have type 2 fun and also be in service of others, that's just the best, man. So I think back to, rafting down the Amazon River through a typhoon, and some really extreme things that we've done. I used to have an adventure travel company. We were the first company to do zorbing down the sand dunes of the Sahara. And we would just do things, man, that others didn't think were possible. We wouldn't take no for an answer. And yeah, there were some injuries. I dare say we weren't safe all the time, Scott, but we're still here. We're still doing the damn thing. So
right on. Hey, this is a great moment to transition. So I picked out a quote for you to respond to. We talked about it earlier. It's from the book, The One Thing by Gary Keller. And I just found this quote quite fitting for you in your life. And I think it is a great transition right here. The quote goes like this: "The challenge is that living the largest life possible requires you not only to think big, but also to take the necessary actions to get there. Extraordinary results require you to go small."
Yes, completely agree with this. Let me give you a direct reflection. So there's some really great learnings in Japanese culture. And one of the things that the Japanese do is they choose one thing per year that scares the bejesus out of them. One thing that's so big, it defines your entire year. Okay. So I've used this to help template and design my life. I always put one thing on the calendar that's scary as hell. Last year, it was running across the Sahara. This upcoming year, I'm doing a 100-mile race in the canyons of Mexico with a tribe called the Tarahumara, a local Mexican tribe who are indigenous people and who are some of the world's best runners. And it's scary. And I don't, while I know I can do it, I don't know if I can do it. And that quote resonates with me because I'm looked upon as having an extraordinary life. And I'm blessed to have one, but it's not by accident. It's by design. It's lifestyle by design. And I actively choose to seek out seemingly difficult or impossible or large things, and then put in the time and dedication to achieve them, right? So as it applies to running, putting in the training day by day. I do a 5K every day, right? I'm on a streak right now. I don't miss a day. On the weekends, I have to run 50 miles this weekend. I'm on holiday. How am I going to find time for that? I have to sacrifice time with my girlfriend or my business partners, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's a matter of setting these huge, lofty, intense, scary goals and then committing to the daily discipline of achieving them.
I love it.
And that's the juice of life, man, because the day by day stuff can be hard. Doing the big thing is actually quite easy. You show up, it's one day, it's 50 seconds on a microphone, it's a comedy performance. It goes by in the blink of an eye, but you get attached and you get enjoyment from the discipline and by the journey. They say it's not the destination, it's the journey. I also think more importantly, it's who you do the journey with. Not just the journey. Again, type 2 fun. I don't know where the journey is going to lead me, but if I'm with good people, I'm happy. Or if I'm there by myself, but showing up in a good version of myself, I'm happy. So the journey can also be with yourself, and that just comes down to perspective, and sort of emotional IQ.
Yeah, very inspirational. So, short personal narrative. I'm 58 and a half. 60 is right out there. And I'm trying to set for myself. I haven't figured out what it's going to be. What is that one big goal? What is that one big scary thing that and it's a year and a half away. 150 is probably too big. Right? No cartilage in the knees anymore. So I got to figure out what it is. But to your point, it's got to be scary. It's got to be audacious.
Yeah.
So I'm working on it. I might have to consult with you on the side.
No problem.
Something a little shorter than 150. It's got to be short.
Pick it, put it on the calendar. Once it's there, you tell a few people about it. They can hold you accountable, and then you'll be at that start line, whatever that start line is for you, before you know it. And if you do the proper training for whatever it is, you'll be ready. You'll be ready.
Mike, we are finishing up here. This has been brilliant. Thank you so much. There's so much here for everybody. I hope we have a lot of people listening to this and pulling away what Mike has shared. Mike, if you have your last piece of advice to leave people with, what would it be?
For those, again, I'm not saying this to say this. If you're young and deciding what to do with your future, you need to go and travel. Study abroad. It doesn't need to be semester at sea. I think it's the greatest program on planet Earth, but you need to get outside of America and get outside of your country. There's a lot more to see out there that will change the course of your life. And if you don't do it, I promise you will regret it. Travel while you can, be uncomfortable, and never settle.
Perfect. This has been awesome. Enjoy your time in Portugal and wherever else the world, the life that you live takes you. Hopefully at some point we'll meet in person. It was a pleasure to meet you in person. Until then, please stay in touch and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Anyone who wants to follow me, you can message me. I'm happy to talk about my experiences. Instagram is best at Savas on the go.
At Savas on the go. Very fitting. Thanks, Mike. This episode of As Unexpected is sponsored in part by Semester at Sea, a study abroad program where students visit 10 countries on 3 continents, all while taking 3 to 4 college classes through Colorado State University. See course offerings and upcoming voyage itineraries at www.semesteratsea.org. Thank you for joining this week's episode of the As Unexpected podcast. The viewpoints and opinions of featured guests do not necessarily represent those of the Institute for Shipboard Education or Semester at Sea. Hit the like button, share it with your colleagues, family, and friends, and remember, be curious, be compassionate, be courageous. That's what it takes to lead as unexpected.